Okay, I don't know why the live stream stopped. I really don't. The battery's fine. All I got was a message about bad connection, which, yes, for some reason, WoW is having a problem with their connection. Why not? It's only when you want to do something, right? So I don't know what you guys missed. I don't know what I talked about that you missed because I don't know when it shut off. But let's go over it briefly. And if I repeat myself, my apologies. Oh, yeah. Plug that back in. Get some gloves. So here we are hoping to pull this thing out today, blah, 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 blah. And I have a couple things left to do before I can do such a thing. I could not live stream on Monday because I have some appointments this week, so I had to move my days off around a little bit. I found out that I was lucky, and the one E-socket set, the E-socket that I'm missing will still work for that AC compressor. What do I have left to do? The AC compressor has to come off, but you lift the motor out a little bit, then you take the AC compressor off because it's next to impossible to reach that E-socket bolt with the motor already in place. I have to remove this front pulley to give me a hook point for the engine hoist. The other hook point is going to be here. The other one is going to be on the backside. Oddly enough, General Motors only put one engine lift up here. I guess they assume that because you're never going to lift the thing out, you only need to have one. But why put one there in the first place if you're not going to be using it? Anyways, so I've seen all sorts of different concoctions for lifting these things or keeping them in the air. And I've seen people just wrap an engine hoist around the motor and just hold it like that. You know, so anyway, I got a neat trick for that. Transmission mount I have to disconnect. Downpipe I have to disconnect, which is what I'm going to be doing first. And the O2 sensor has to be disconnected and then pulled through because it comes up with the motor. If there's anything else that I'm missing, there's a possibility that I may have to do that in its place, while I'm lifting the motor out. But, you take your time, you lift it out slowly, you look for anything that might snag, any wire that might be not coming up. I know the ABS wheel speed sensor harnesses come up with it. And they are fully disconnected, so we're good there. I might have to lift the car up a little bit more because it is a tight fit under here, getting to that catalytic converter, which is where the rear O2 sensor is at. And so, anyways, let me check the live stream, make sure it's still working. We are still live. Good. All right. So I am going to hop up under here, and I'm going to start removing the bolts on the downpipe. Then I'm going to feed, and I don't know why I've been recording this whole time. Then I'm going to feed the O2 sensor through. Okay, here we go. What? First of all, I gotta find out if that's a 15 or a 13. I can't remember. Give me off of this. I need confidence. think it's a 13. Yep, it's a 13. I might have to use my impact for this. Oh, I do not want to break these bolts. I sprayed these bolts down yesterday, and I was hoping that I'd be able to get them out with just a ratchet. That's not going to happen. It's just with any exhaust bolt, you know, the heat, the cold, the heat, the cold, the heat, the cold, the bolts almost become welded together. And so you have to spray them to break that bond and allow the spray to go up to release the two different pieces of metal. But why am I wearing one glove like Michael Jackson? I don't know. So I'm gonna have to get the impact out. And actually I want to raise the car up a little bit. I don't like that. Get that back a little bit more. Car must have shifted a little bit because the right side is off-centered a little bit. Yeah, they're at the same height. I don't know. And they'll go anywhere. Someone asked me if 1-ton jack would be good enough for lifting this up. Are you crazy? 1 ton is 2,000 pounds. And you have to think that this motor by itself weighs about 985 pounds with the transmission. Well, without the transmission. So, whatever. It's always better to err on the safe side than it is to cut it so close. Alright, I gotta get my compressor going. Out. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to get rid of, let me get a better shot of this. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is we need to get rid of the downpipe. This is where the downpipe actually attaches to the rear manifold or collector. And it's two 13mm bolts. The easiest way is to get from underneath. You need to spray these bolts down. I guarantee you that they're going to be stuck in some way. You don't want to break them off. Spray them down a couple of times. And yeah, just go easy on it. If you can't get it with a ratchet, it's likely you're going to need to get an impact. Mine, even though they were off a year ago, are stuck in there pretty good. So I am going to be using an impact to get these out. Just to be aware, there's two of them, 13mm. Get at them from underneath, and you should be okay. Again, just take your time. I guess I should do a shot from underneath. Okay. Alright, I know it's hard to see, but here's the view from underneath. On each side is a 13mm bolt. Ooh, it's cold in here. There's one. And there's the other. This thing falls on me. Oh. So, what ended up happening was one of them came out with a bolt, which is fine. It just means that the nut is seized up on it, whereas the other one, the nut came off the thread. You can see the difference between the two here. It's fine if it comes out, as long as one of the two comes out without breaking it. I had to use an impact to get this off. There's a lot of rust on here, and I just oiled these, and I just had them in there. I might have these bolts dipped. I don't know. So now the downpipe is disconnected. Now we can get to the O2 sensor just behind it. We're going to end up leaving the catalytic converter and downpipe in place. I'm going to leave it hanging. Last year when I did this, I took off the rear bolts. One of them broke off. It snapped. So I had to drill it out. That was a pain. I got video footage of that, but in fact, you can probably find it because I did do a video on it. I wonder if I can get the heater turned back on again. Yeah, I'm not smelling any gas anymore. I'm almost out of propane anyway. number was needed to get this O2 sensor. Oh yeah. I remember I already fucked mine up. Well, I didn't fuck it up, but there's a heat shield underneath here, and it runs through that heat shield, the O2 sensor harness. It runs through that heat shield, and I think I just bent the crap out of mine to get it out. So now it's just kind of sitting there, which is fine. It's not hurting it any. So, I'm going to have to make a note of that in the video. Be ready for that. Just need a flathead screwdriver for this. Okay, I'm going to climb up underneath the car again. We're going to disconnect that O2 sensor. I want to make sure that the live stream is still going good. It's nice and sunny out. Really nice and sunny out. I think the propane tank is just about done for. Okay. Just my microphone. Alrighty, so now we need to get at the O2 sensor, the rear O2 sensor, the one that's right near the catalytic converter. You're going to need your car up quite a bit because it's way back here. And go ahead and take you back here. I lift my car up a little bit more, so of course I have training fluid that's coming out a little bit because of the different pitch. But let's travel all the way back. You'll see where you just got rid of your downpipe bolts. And all the way back here, you will notice this heat shield right here, this heat shield, and attached to this hole right here should be this harness right here. Mine is not attached because I detached it, and I just kind of left it in here. It's fine. You can see it's stayed in here, but there is a heat shield that runs all the way along here because it's so close to your catalytic converter, which gets very hot, that they hide the harness underneath this heat shield. This has to be loomed all the way through. It ends up right here in this spot, and then you can loom it through. This part here goes to the engine bay. You absolutely have to remove this because it comes up with the engine. So the easiest way to do it is just some pliers and just bring it up and through. Now mine's pretty loose. Mine's loose because I worked on it last time. There's not a lot of room under here. I ended up bending mine and doing all sorts of crap in order to get it out of there. Just be aware of that. You want to disconnect the harness right here. Sorry about the shadows. You want to disconnect the harness right here. Flathead screwdriver. You can even use your fingers and disconnect it right here and then feed it through. How I did it last time was I just took a flathead screwdriver and just kind of wedged it in here, pulled the heat shield down, and just kind of fed it through because the harness, the harness end connector is so thick or big that it'll have a hard time getting through here without getting stuck on anything, and you don't want to just keep on yanking it through because it's a good possibility that you actually damage the heat, or excuse me, you'll damage the wire harness end connector. So just be aware of that, something to be aware of. So we can go ahead and we can loom this all the way through. Again, be absolutely sure that you get it all the way through and you pull it all the way up through the engine bay so that you know that it's not going to snag on anything on the way out. Okay, so after this O2 sensor, the only thing we have left are the two bolts, easily accessible here on the transmission mount. And then we're done. Then we can start lifting. Oh, I already took them off. Ha! Well, no need to do that. I already took them off. Yeah, I already took them off. I don't know when I did that. I swear as you get older, you forget things. Okay, so I just need to get that O2 sensor harness all the way through, and then we can hook this thing up, of course. Yeah, anyway. Where did I put my screwdriver? Oh. Damn it. Well, I kind of screwed that up. not the blue connector that comes apart. It's the black one. Alright, let's try this again. Mic check 1 2 1 2. We in the house. Yeah. Alright, so once you pull the harness away, you should have some slack on here. And you can see right there is where it disconnects. Right at that point there. Once you've disconnected it, you can start looming it through, but you can see how big this harness is. So you're going to have to get something to wedge into this heat shield to pull it down while you're feeding it through. Don't just yank it through, because I guarantee you're going to break the end connector off. It's going to get stuck on something at very least. So you kind of have to get this heat shield down and out of the way, and then you can feed it through. Be absolutely sure that you feed it all the way through, and make sure that you can pull that connector up and hold it in your hand in the engine bay, because it comes up with the motor. Okay. O2 sensor is disconnected. I don't know what the hell that is. Where is it? Where the hell did it go? Oh, it's hanging down there. O2 sensor, rear harness, check. What are we missing? What are we missing? Got my E-socket set ready. Okay. Huh. Nice little home for the spiders. Okay. Just gonna do a test to make sure that it's not going to hit that. It says here on the side, a minimum of 2 physically fit adults are required to assemble and operate the engine crane. Well, there's only one of me. I guess I'll add that disclaimer to the video. Yeah, there should be plenty of room. Before I can start lifting, I have to assemble the legs, and I have to lower the car down as far as I can lower it, almost touching the ground. Okay, you can see that I have my engine hoist in place. I'm not done with it yet, though. I have to assemble the legs, but I'm just setting this up as kind of a trial run. So now's a good time to start talking about what you need to do in order to actually securely attach this to the engine hoist. Okay, you're talking about a lot of weight that you're going to be pulling up, and if anything slips or goes wrong, everything's going to come crashing down. Worse yet, you get injured or even killed. There's a lot that go wrong here. So this is what we're going to do. Here is the front idler pulley. This is a 15 millimeter bolt on the end here. We're going to remove this idler, but we're going to put the bolt right back in place. That will allow us to hook onto this bolt as a point of connection. Okay. Second connection point is right here. This is where the dog bone or the upper mount actually connected. I have inserted the bolt, tightened it all the way down. So this is another point that we're going to be using in order to pull the engine up. The third point is right back here. They actually have a bracket right there so that you could lift the engine. There's only one bracket though, which doesn't surprise me because the motor was not intended to be lifted using a hoist. So that will be our third point. Once I have gotten this out and I have everything all set up, I'll show you exactly how I looped it around to make it as safe as possible. shit. I screwed that up. All right. When I said it, right in front of my face. All right, you guys on my blind. I've got one on here. Where'd I put the other one at? Somebody yell into the camera. What the hell? Oh, down here. Okay. Alright, let's check my live stream, make sure everything's working okay still. Yes. So if you're just joining, I'm prepping to pull this. I'm not pulling it right now, so I got to get the legs attached. I have to lower the car as low as it'll possibly go. This hoist goes up pretty high, but you want to be able to clear this. And if the car is too far up in the air, the engine hoist will never clear it. So I'm just kind of thinking if there's anything that I missed. I'm sure that I'll know it as soon as I start to lift it. I still have to do the AC compressor, but I'm going to get the motor up a little bit, undo the AC, and then be able to adjust the strap, because the idea is that I've got the strap really tight on this side, so that this part of the motor will come up first, because as it's lifting it up, since this is the shorter side, this side will start to come up first and then the rest of it. That's the whole idea. I might have to wind this up once more, and I can make adjustments as I go along. In fact, I'm going to make an adjustment right now, because I don't like how this is. This is a 5,000 pound test engine hoist strap that I got at Harbor Freight. I didn't pay very much for it. Most of the lifting for the actual motor is between these 2 points here. This point here, where the engine mount, the upper engine mount goes, that's basically just to keep the strap from threading all the way through and then jumping off on you. It doesn't actually do any of the lifting. Most of the lifting is done between these 2 corner points here. Okay. Alright, so let's take a step back and let's look at this in its entirety, okay? You have I have a 5,000 pound test engine hoist strap that I got from Harbor Freight. More than enough to lift the motor and transmission, which weighs a little over 1,000 pounds combined. And what I ended up doing here, I've got these hooks here. I also got from Harbor Freight. They're only about $10 a piece. They are also 5,000 pound test. And I attached one of them. It's actually not attached. You can see it's not attached, but I'm using the bolt from where the idler was and I threaded it all the way through as tight as it would go, and now this is going to hook, all right? So make sure you thread it all the way through because the bolt will break because of all the weight on it if you don't thread it all the way through. So thread it until it won't thread anymore. And you should have almost no wiggle room between the head of the bolt and the hook. Okay. On the back side, let me get on the other side here. On the back side, using the stock or the in-place engine hoist point here, whatever you want to call it, the lift point, I threaded the engine strap through. Not using a hook, I just threaded it through. And then what I did was I wrapped it around a couple of times to bring it taut. And then at the end here, where the upper engine mount was, I have another hook right here, okay? This point here is not going to do the lifting. The two corners are what's going to be doing all of the lifting of the motor, so that's the most important. But this is going to keep the strap from unwinding and then going through and you drop the whole thing, okay? Now, where the lift is, I'm using the hook. I'm not using this. I'm using the actual hook. This is where it's test. And I've got it wound around a couple of times. You want to make this point between the engine hoist and the pulley to be as short as possible. That way, when the motor is coming up, this portion is going to come up first. So the front of the motor, which is actually on this side here, is going to come up first. Okay, that's important. It's important because there's a lot here. You can see where the transmission is sitting right here. Well, if you just try to lift it straight up, well, guess what? You're going to hit the ABS control module tray. You're most likely going to be hitting the brake fluid reservoir, the brake fluid reservoir pump. You know, everything is going to get hit. But if it comes out through the front first, then what you can do is you can actually take the motor and you can slide it to your left, okay? Then you can lift it up even more. It takes a lot of dancing, it takes a lot of maneuvering, but eventually you'll get it. The whole point here is to take your time. Don't rush this. Don't try to lift it up because you're super excited to get it out. Take your time. What I usually do is I'll give it a couple of pumps, and then I will stop and I will walk around with a flashlight and I will look for anything that might possibly be stuck, caught, snagging, anything. I also listen real close. If you hear a clang or a snap or something else like that, then that's probably not a good sign. So just be aware of that. Take your time. There's no rush in getting this thing out. When you take your time, I guarantee you're going to get it all the way out. Now, another thing. We still have to do the AC compressor. The AC compressor has an E8 or E9 bolt right here that is basically impossible to get to with any sort of strength. Trust me, there's not much there. In fact, my socket comes out to about right here. I can't even get a ratchet in there. So if you lift up the motor about 3 to 4 inches, you will have full access to this bolt. You will also have access to the two underside bolts. There's a bolt underneath here, and there's a bolt in the front that also has to be disconnected. So those bolts have to be removed before you can take the engine out all the way. Again, be safe about it. You're also going to need to lower the car as far as you possibly can. I've got mine on my tall jack stands right now. However, I have a very tiny jack back there. That small floor jack. It's a low profile floor jack. Basically what I'm going to be doing, I'll show you before I start lifting, is I'm going to get the jack up underneath here. And I'm going to have the entire car just sitting on the jack. It's not going to be in the air. It's just going to be sitting on the jack. Okay? That way, the engine hoist does not have to lift the motor up super high, because the higher you lift it, the more dangerous it actually gets. The idea is to be able to lift the motor up as low as possible to be able to clear the radiator up here. That's the whole point. You don't want this thing all the way up to your ceiling, because that's just going to be asking for trouble. So, take your time, be safe about it, get your legs on, don't do anything stupid. If you have a friend who can help you, that's, highly recommended. In fact, it even says on the side of this to use 2 fit adults. That's physically fit adults to do this. So I guess I'm one physically fit adult. We'll see how this works, but I recommend you do have a friend help you. So I'm going to set up the camera in the corner, and I'm going to start lifting, and we will see where it goes. That's going to be the easiest way to do this. Well, this is probably move that out of the way. I left the pan under there. That was stupid. Alright, live stream's still going good. Alright, let's check our live stream. Live stream looks good. We are getting ready to pull this out. It's probably a better angle right here for you guys. I'll try to get this, and that came unplugged. Try to get this as far back as I can. Alright. Still charging. Okay, so we're getting ready to pull this. I'm all strapped up. I'm all ready to go. I got the jack down there holding the body. Once the engine hoist is doing all, because 90% of all the weight in front of your car is your motor and transmission. Once the engine hoist is doing all the lifting, then I don't need to worry about. I mean, jack can always fail. I understand that it can always fail, but there will be hardly any weight on it at all. So I think we're about ready. Still going over in my head what I could possibly be missing here. Better to be safe than sorry. Still have to disconnect the AC compressor, but again, it's actually not that bad once you've got it in the air a little bit. You can actually reach the bolts. There's a bolt on the side here that can actually be gotten to. I can actually do that right now, as a matter of fact. Probably easier to do it now. There's one bolt on the side here that you can get through your wheel well. Down here, and there's one in the front, but it's kind of underneath. You can't reach it from underneath. You got to kind of get up underneath here with a ratchet the best that you can. It is a pain in the ass to get to, but the higher the motor is, the easier it is to get to. I don't remember exactly where it's at. It's down here below the lower radiator hose. Yeah, there it is. And yeah, I remember this being a pain in the ass. There's a bolt that's underneath here where the AC compressor kind of slides into it, slots in. It's really awkward, and it has to be removed. There's basically no way to get to it from underneath. I guess you could possibly, if you had a short, which I do, I don't know, maybe I can get to it from underneath. I can't remember if it's a 10 or a 13 millimeter. Find out here real quick. This is 50. It's definitely not 15. Oh, it is. It's 15. Alright. Where are you? Where are you? Mr. Bolt. Mr. Bolt, where are you? Where are you, Mr. Bolt? Can't see it from underneath here. There you are. There you are. I wonder. Oh. Oh my. Shit. The one underneath is a 13, the one on the side is a 15. Isn't that convenient? And I might have found a new way to get to it. Well, the lower radiator hose, once it's out of the way. Ah! What do you know? Ha! Ah! Why can't I? It's not going around the bolt. What's going on here? Sorry guys, I know you're waiting for the big moment, but I'm always looking for ways to make this easier so that on video, when I put all this together, it'll be easy. That propane tank is on the red, and yet it's still going. So there's 2 bolts and 1 E-style bolt. It's a reverse star bit. And the one underneath is the difficult one to get to. If I can get to it right now, then I can just disconnect the AC right now without even... Well, I mean, I'll still have to get that E-bolt, but that's not a big deal. Well, wrong bolt. Wrong bolt. That one probably goes to a bleeder. What am I feeling here? Okay, wrong bolt. This one on the side here we can still get. That must be a bleeder bolt. Damn. See. It's down there, I just can't see it. I don't want to tear away the wrong bolt. It's starting to get hot in here. I'm never happy. I don't know how to use a plug either. Okay, let's find the bolt. The bolt is under here somewhere. There is one bolt. It's a pain in the tush to get. And I'm just feeling for it. Because if I can get it, I know the AC compressor slots into it, so I'm trying to find that slot. I can't seem to find it. Still got 8 antifreeze coming out of this thing, so. Oh yeah, that engine mount is screwed. That engine mount is completely gone. Alright, so this is what we're going to do. We're gonna go ahead and start lifting. I'll get that one bolt there on the side because it's easier to get to with the motor still in place. Then as I lift it up, I'll keep my eye on these AC lines. And you can actually get this thing up quite a ways. There's a lot of slack on this AC line that's here. The one thing there is no slack on though is the wire harness going to the AC compressor. So I gotta make sure I disconnect that. Got that movie Up stuck in my head. That bird. Can I remember his name? The bird. Alrighty, so before we start to lift this, we are in place. We are ready to start lifting. We've triple and quadruple checked everything just to make sure we got it all. Before we start lifting, we're going to worry about the AC compressor. The AC compressor is way easier to get to when the motor is, up about halfway or so. Maybe less than that. But before you start lifting, there is one bolt right here. This is a 15 millimeter bolt. You can see it right there attached to the AC compressor. That one's very easy to get to now before you start to lift the motor. Also, underneath here, you will see a wire harness connected to the AC compressor. You absolutely must disconnect that. So disconnect that wire harness. See it right there. Disconnect that and remove that 15 millimeter bolt before you start lifting. Bye-bye. And then you get an extension. I remember this harness. This one's a pain. This wire harness under here is kind of a pain. It's in a confined spot. And they use this wing connector style, so you don't just have a little retainer you could just push in and be done with it. Okay. Well, I am going to leave you guys hanging. No pun intended. Grab a snack real quick. And then I got to get my other tripod anyway. So I got to get my other tripod so that I can mount this for a good camera angle. Lifting this up. So I'll be back in about 5-10 minutes or so. Just gonna grab a snack. So the great thing about being live is that things like that happen. I yanked on the cord, so I have to have this phone plugged in, or else I have to have the phone plugged in. God, I actually hate this phone. I have to have the phone plugged in, or else it'll, I'm trying to set up a... Anyway, so I am going to, it was probably a pretty neat fall there. I'll have to see that on the live stream. But, I knocked my camera off its tripod. Actually, the tripod just fell over, and the battery came out of the phone. So I have to have this thing plugged in because the live stream uses up a lot of, yeah, anyways. So hopefully you guys can hear me okay. All right, I'm going to run inside real quick and get something to eat. I'm trying to... Geez. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to... There's a... The volume button on here is stuck. Clean the lens off a little bit. There we go. Let's see. Alright, so I can see your comment, Brian. Why am I pulling the trans or the motor? Well, if you haven't, obviously you haven't seen in a while, but how's that? How's that angle? I'm trying to get a, I need it to go far back, but as I have such a short cord on here. So I'm actually getting ready to head back inside to grab a snack, and then my camera fell over. Why am I doing this again? I have a couple of previous videos you can check out. The compression on cylinders, I think it's 1, 1, and 4. Whichever ones, it doesn't matter. I've got low compression on 2 cylinders. The rest of the cylinders seem to be okay, but still they're not the greatest. Displacement on demand absolutely destroys these motors after about 100,000 miles because the rings get soaked. And yeah, well, if you've ever pulled out a 1.4, anyway, the DoD cylinders, if you've ever pulled one of those spark plugs out, you'll notice the DoD cylinder is probably going to be soaked with oil, which is why a lot of people get misfires on these things. Usually on the DoD cylinders, because when they become oil soaked, they don't have very good spark, and then you run into problems. So if you do get a misfire, it usually comes up as P, I don't remember, but anyway, it's a multiple misfire count, or it might be like a cylinder 7. For me, it was cylinder 7. Actually, 4 was dead. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 4 was dead completely when I hit that rock. I was going down the highway, and a rock, a big, good-sized rock, about that big. I think it came off of a truck. Maybe they were hauling rocks, I don't know. But it came off, and I saw it. But when you're on the highway and you're doing 80 miles an hour, it's not something you swerve. You hit it, you accept the consequences. That's why you have insurance. So the rock went underneath the car, and it went right up into the oil filter. The oil filter became punctured, okay? And I lost all the oil. Fortunately, I was almost all the way home. But as I was pulling in to the driveway, I had a low oil pressure warning. I pushed it up into the garage, and one of my cylinders was completely dead. One of the lifters had collapsed or became stuck. So over the course of a couple weeks, I got the lifter going again, and then the compression still led to a dead cylinder. Basically, there's too much blow-by for the compression to be able to work properly, so most of the time the cylinder isn't working properly, basically. That's why you have, piston rings. So the rings are probably shot completely. Something else may be wrong, whatever. But anyway, the insurance company paid for the parts. I got a master rebuild kit for it. And they also paid for the shop down the street to actually rebuild it. Once this comes out, I'll take the accessories off, and then I'm going to be sending it down there for a rebuild. It'll take them about a week. They're going to strip it all the way down to the block. They're going to hone the block. They're going to clean it. They're going to rebuild the heads. They're going to basically make it a brand new motor with a brand new timing chain, which is important because this thing has 175,000 miles on it now. So the timing set is super important to replace. So I'm hoping to have this back in and back on the road by early May. Here it is mid-March. It won't take me that long to put it all back together. It's just a matter of getting all the camera angles and so on, because that's what's taking the longest right now. It's just setting up my camera angles, saying what I need to say, and then going from there. So it's been an interesting project, but I figured since I've done this twice, I've literally done this twice before, I figured that the third time I'd go through, I got new garage lights, really bright shop lights. I've got better lighting. I have a better camera. I was going to use my DSLR, but the 4K recording on the DSLR is really cropped. So I decided just to use this. It's fine. It's adequate. So all around, I have better equipment to be able to do this. And since I've done it twice, I know exactly what I need to do, how I need to do it, what order I need to do it. And that's why. So this is literally ready to start pulling out. But before I get too excited and too involved, I'm going to get something to eat. And then I'm going to come back out here and we are going to start working at this. I've got to get my other tripod for this so that I can get it in a good spot, good angle, so that I can have a good position here to be able to do this. So that's the update. If I have any more comments. I don't know why the timer is counting down. Yeah, so my insurance, I've got full coverage on this. It's got storage insurance right now because it's in the garage, and my homeowners will cover if somebody breaks in and, well, obviously they can't steal the car. What would they do with it? But with the garage, I can store the car in the wintertime, and then the homeowners would cover anything car-related. If somebody were to break in and steal a radio or something else like that, then the homeowners would take over. So I've just got storage insurance on it right now simply because, it's not being driven. There's no point in having full coverage. But when I'm on the road, I have full coverage. But, yeah, so they gave me a payout for it, basically. They totaled the car, okay? That's how it worked. But State Farm gave me a payout, which was enough to cover all the repairs for the motor. So when I get it back on the road, I don't know how the law works, but I'm assuming in Michigan, I'm only gonna be able to have basically liability on it because it's gonna have a salvage title after this, and which is fine. I don't care. I love this car, so I'll keep driving it. But so yeah, it's basically a total car now. And when I go down to the Secretary of State and I fill out the form to have them change it to a salvage title, of course they'll give me all that information there, but I won't be able to use full coverage on it after that. I don't believe. I gotta check into that, but I wasn't too concerned about that at the time. So anyway, never gonna get to getting any food. You guys are never gonna see me lift this out if I don't get going here. So take a little breaky poo, and I will grab something to eat. I'll be right back. Hang tight. That'll just fell. Sorry it took a little longer than I thought. We are still live. Good. So, I know I'm going to get transmission fluid on the floor. Looks like that's happening right now. Because I did not drain the transmission out. Did not drain the transmission out, and probably going to pay for it now. Actually, quite a bit of fluid had already come out, so it shouldn't be all that much that's left in there. But it'll be coming out the axles, the axle shaft holes. That's where it's going to come out. The hell? So the grand moment is almost here. Just got to get this tripod set up in a good spot that kind of shows what I'm doing. I'm losing my voice here a little bit, actually. Get a little bit of heat in here if we can. I'll get a little bit of heat in here and then we'll start pulling. Oh. My voice is starting to go by the wayside. I don't know. Hopefully I'll be able to keep talking. Man, voice is really starting to go. It sucks. Alright, let's see. Got a little bit warmer in here. I feel like I got a frog in my throat or something. Something in the back of my throat. I can't get rid of it. Ugh. Okay, here we go. The moment of truth. Do or die. Am I going to be a 0 or a hero? Probably a 0. See if I can get my throat cleared out before I start talking. Okay. So we got the camera set up. I'm going to check the live stream real quick. Make sure we got a good angle here. Live stream is still going. I'll back this up just a little bit. Alright. That's probably about as good as I'm going to get with the live stream. Mic check. Okay, so here's the moment of truth. We're not 100% done yet. We still have to disconnect one bolt on the AC compressor, as well as that's it. Let's try that again. My voice. Okay, so the moment of truth is here. This is where the fun begins. We still have one bolt to disconnect on the AC, and we should be done. Okay. Again, lift it up just a little bit, maybe an inch. Go around. Look. There might be a wire harness that is out of the way now that will get snagged on something. Anything's possible. You know, it just happens. So don't just keep on lifting it and then find out, whoops, I snapped something, I broke something, I did something, whatever. Take your time. Again, just be smart about it. Never get underneath the engine stand while it's lifting. You know, never get underneath the car. Stick your head in here while you're looking for something while the motor's in the air. Things like that. Just don't do stuff. Don't be stupid, basically. So, I still have a sock here where the fuel line is that goes into the fuel rails, just in case when I'm tipping it, some more fuel comes out. I also have to contend with transmission fluid that's going to be draining out of here. Because I didn't drain the transmission completely out. So there's going to be fluid coming out. I know it's going to be coming out of that axle shaft hole. I'm hoping that when I get it up high enough, I'll be able to get a pan under there. But as low as the car is, there's no way to get a pan under there. The pan is way too tall because the car itself is almost all the way to the floor. So let's go ahead and get going. I will do a time lapse on here of me lifting this out. I also have to stop briefly so that I can undo this one bolt that's in the front here. It's kind of down here up underneath the exhaust manifold. So that's, I guess that's pretty much it. Time for the fun. Okay. For all of you watching at home on the live stream, again, I'm either going to be a zero or a hero. I'm going to probably miss something so blatantly obvious that I'm just going to look like a fool. So start laughing now so that you get it out of your system now before I do it, and that way you won't feel like laughing. So what's happening now is the motor is rocking. It's rocking back a little bit. And this strap is holding a lot of the weight right here. So again, a 5,000 pound test strap is perfect. Now, I've been pretty apprehensive about being around this, but after lifting this and lowering it a whole bunch of times, this hook is more than strong enough, and it's wedged up underneath here, so I've never had it slip. But if you're worried about that, you can add a washer to this. Again, I'm not worried about it. I'm hoping that it doesn't fall and make me look like an absolute douche. So, with everything coming up slowly, I have to kind of move things around, adjust, because right now the motor is going back into the firewall, so I have to make sure that nothing's being squished. And at the same time, I can start to push the motor back, so I can actually bring the motor back. But the idea is you want to get the weight up, because all it's going to do, if you bring it up a couple inches, it's just going to want to push itself back in, because the motor mounts that are underneath here are still inside the slots. So you're not going to be able to get it very far, because the motor mounts are going to keep you from moving it back anymore. Right now I can see that the front motor mount is out. So I can start to bring it back a little bit. It won't be a lot, but I can start bringing it back a little bit. It looks like the rear motor mount is still in there. So I'm just going through and I'm checking everything. You got like this much space between the exhaust manifold and this point right here. There's a lot of space. So the whole thing can move forward, which will alleviate a lot of your space issues. Right now, you know, I'm just making sure that the harnesses are loose. I'm making sure that, you know, nothing's going to snag, nothing's going to catch. I'm making sure that I have enough clearance. You know, gotta have clearance. What's our vector, Victor? Huh? So right now, looks like everything's pretty well out of the way. Okay, so I might have to set this down and make an adjustment here. It's about 4 inches lifted now, but it wants to keep rocking back. There we go. So something in the back was hanging up. Transmission dipstick looks clear. Wire harness for the O2 sensor looks clear. I'm not seeing any things snagging over on this side. We'll make sure that that downpipe is disconnected. Wire harness over here. Wire harness over here. Check this side. power steering is kind of stuck. Power steering is wedged. This is why you check things like this. One of the power steering lines is kind of wedged in here. And the last thing I want to do is bust a power steering line. How did that happen? The high side, how did that happen? Fuck. The high side power steering line is wedged between this idler and what the fuck is going on here? There's enough slack on here where I can take it up a little bit, but I'm hoping that I don't know why it's stuck. I can't see. There we go. Damn. So again, there's a good example of why you check, because I would have kept on pulling it up and it would have ripped the high side power steering line right out. Because this is a 5-ton, well, it's 1 ton, but with all that hydraulic pressure, it'll actually hold, I think, yeah, 3 tons of pressure on this thing. So that's more than enough to rip out a power steering hose. So now I've got full access to this. I've got full access to that bolt, and I might have better access . I might have better access getting to that bottom bolt now as well. The motor is, you can see it's entirely up in the air and being held in by the being held up by the engine stand. So all the weight of the motor is now being held up by the engine stand. So I'm just looking for that one bolt. I can't see it. I'm just looking for that one bolt. There it is. Shit, I see it now. Alright. I'm going to see how far I can lift this up before I have to get to that. There's still plenty of slack on these AC lines. There's plenty of slack here. Okay. Alright, so the motor is out, we'll say maybe about a foot, maybe a little less. Now you can see there's one bolt right here. This is a special bolt. It's an E bolt, and I'm using an E8 socket right here to remove this bolt. Alright, that's one. The other one, which you may have to lift the motor up a little bit more to get to, and I know you won't be able to see it, but there is one more bolt on the underside of the AC compressor. It's at an angle. It's a 15 millimeter. It's a little difficult to get to, but what you'll notice, there's the AC lines right there. You can see that there's quite a bit of slack on those lines, so you can lift this up quite a ways before you would risk pulling on those lines. So if you need to, you can lift this up even more to be able to get better access at that bolt. It is a difficult bolt to get to, so just be aware of that. Hell. Why am I in selfie mode? Oh, jeez. I don't remember. Does this go backwards? Shit. It might go backwards. Trying to think. Alright. I'm having a brain fart right now. I don't remember. I think this thing goes backwards. I think you have to get it. Get it through, and then get a deep well. Get a deep well 15, 13 maybe. It might be 15. Yeah, it's 15. Damn it. My 15 is underneath. Okay, gonna have to make a note of that. Blah. Okay, let's see here now. Where am I at? What am I doing? What am I doing? Anybody know? I just turned off. No, I turned it on. Are you guys enjoying yourself? Make comments. It's live now, so we can read comments live. I can't see because my phone is obviously in a different direction. But every video that I do, I go back and look at the comments, and I answer questions, and I hear some people complain about the way I'm doing this, and my pants are getting so much bigger. I've been losing weight like crazy, which is good. These are a comfortable size 36, and I was at a size 40, pushing it, when I started about a year ago. I'm at the gym 4 to 5 days a week now. Anyway. What am I doing? Alright, now then you can see that I have loosened up this bolt. Basically what I did was I took the special socket and I threaded the threads inward. Okay, you want to go in, so it's as if you're tightening it. Then you take a 15 millimeter deep well socket and you loosen this up. So this is no longer in your way. Once you have this out of the way, then you can actually re-unthread, or you can continue to unthread this. Because what the problem is with that nut on there, it keeps it from being able to back out because it's really tight. Now we can back this all the way out as far as we want to, and it'll be freed up. Good. I think I got that. Dinner time. This has got to be the longest bolt on the whole car. And it's a stupid bolt. That right there is an E-bolt. You can see the star bit that's on the end there. So that took an E8, and that's basically it. So that's a super long bolt. I have to keep track of these bolts. Now the task at hand is going to be getting to that bottom bolt. But I think I got enough slack on here. I think I should be able to get it to. I might have to go that way a little bit more. What? Make sure. This transmission mount isn't. Transmission mount is not coming out. I don't want to break that mount, so I think what I'll do is there's two sets of nuts that are on the transmission mount. There's a top set and then there's a bottom set. This thing's not, it's not releasing, so I might remove the bottom set. That way it should come up that way. They're 15 millimeter. I know I had this problem last time where it seemed like this transmission mount didn't want to come free. Damn, there we go. Alright, I just used my pry bar and pried it up. I might have to adjust this strap a little bit because it's not coming out at the angle I need it to come out. That freed it up from the AC lines over here, but it's coming up to way too level. I'm running out of room on that side. So I'm checking for clearance of any wire harness or anything else that might get caught or be in the way. I got enough room here. That's not an issue. It's just this side over here is always tight. I've got about maybe that much room between the transmission and the ABS control module. I thought about last time just cutting a corner off, because that would make a huge difference. Because the tray is about that much bigger than the damn control module. It's as if I don't know if that tray is the same for the non-LS4. I would assume that it is, so maybe that's what it is. Alright, so these two lines here are about as slacked as they're going to get. Now I see this bolt in full view. This piece of shit bolt, it is right next to the front engine mount. It's not coming out like I want it to. I might have to set it back down because it's too level and the front needs to come up. I need to move the strap to this about right into here, or move the you guys know what I'm talking about. I need to move it over here a little bit more. I thought it was pretty tight, but it's not. So the motor's coming out level, and the idea is to clear the balancer from the battery tray where the battery sits. Clear the balancer there. Then you can move it over even more and clear, but mine's coming out way too level. So that's probably going to be an issue. But I will work at it and see if I can get it out. If I don't think that it'll come out, because I'm almost clear over here on this side. It's that damn that ABS tray. Everything else is clear over here. But that ABS tray is bumping up against the transmission bracket, transmission mount bracket that's on the side of the transmission. It's bumping up against that. If the bracket was off, it'd be easier, but those bolts are hard to get to when the transmission's in the car. So, I don't know. Okay, so we've got quite a bit of room here now. You can see just how high I am out of the engine bay. Down here I know you can't see it because it's difficult to see. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. There is a 15mm bolt. It is right about there. Maybe you can see. I know it's really hard to see. It is the last bolt that needs to be disconnected to allow the AC compressor to drop. Now, it's easy to get to now because you've got room. It's still, not super easy, but it's much easier to get to now with this room that you have. Just get a ratchet and an extension and get it down there. If you need to use a swivel, you can use that, but get that bolt. And you don't even have to loosen the bolt all the way. The thing is that the AC compressor actually slots into it. So if you back out the bolt, say about 15, 20 turns, you should be able to pull the AC compressor right off of the block. What's going on here? What the fuck is going on here? I want to go all the way around. Alright, we're going to bring this up a little bit more. Damn it, my extension is too long. I don't think I have a shorter extension. Son of a bitch. It's like, it's just the main AC line that's coming out the top, the metal line, is right there, and my ratchet is too short without an extension, too long with an extension. Oh, damn. Why don't you slide off there? What the fuck? Don't tell me I gotta back this thing out all the way. Wow, this thing is, I don't know if it's because the lines are pulling on it, but it's not letting me slide it out of the way. My hand is getting tired holding on to this damn thing. There. Alright, well the AC is disconnected now, the compressor is, so I can probably come up a little bit more, but I'm not liking this on this side at all. This needs to come over. I'm probably going to have to adjust that strap. The only thing that's holding it up on this side is that transmission mount. That's it. It's the only thing holding it up. And the balancer is still touching the fender here. So I can't go up any further on that point. So just might have to adjust it. Man, I only need an inch on there. I remember this being a pain in the ass. There's like that much right there on the end where the ABS tray is, and it's just barely holding on to it. See, normally, I don't know if I'll be able to, I guess I can see. If I can try to lift this up a little bit more on this side, then I can bring the motor this way even more, and then I'll clear it just fine, then it won't be an issue. But that strap is not where I need it to be in order to get the motor to come up in that direction. Just checking our clearance, making sure nothing's getting caught. The only thing that's getting caught, like I said, is this damn tray. Oops. I only need about that much more, and then I can slide it away. Damn it. Oh shit. The wire harness to the damn... How the fuck did that get bound up on there like that? The wire harness is bound up. Gotta lower it a little bit. I'm stuck on the alternator bracket. Gotta lower it just a little bit and then bring it forward or this way. This damn thing. I'm clear on this side now. The bracket's clear. Now it's just going to slide forward and up. The problem is that alternator bracket now. Got about another inch that I can bring it. I just don't want it to scuff up this. Let's see why it's not letting me go back with it anymore. Got a ton of room here in the front. These aluminum lines will bend. That didn't sound good. I'm hung up on something and I don't know what it is. It's not that bracket anymore, that's clear. I'm hung up on something. I'm clear on this side with the transmission. This is clear. I don't know if... Oh shit. The bracket is stuck underneath. Fuck, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that. I'm going to have to readjust the strap. There's no other way to do it. The bracket is stuck underneath the fender. Well, it's the wheel well, whatever you want to call it. It's hanging up on that, and there's no way for me to break that loose. It's just too... I don't want to damage anything. I can't even use the pry bar to get it to move that way a little bit more. I've got room to move it. I got plenty of room over here on this side now, so I can move it that way, but it's not... I think it's... I don't remember having this much trouble last time getting this to alright. There's no way around it. I gotta adjust this strap because it's not lifting the motor up far enough on this side for me to be able to get it going this way and front ways. It's just not. I mean, it's almost there, but damn, like an inch. So anyway, yeah, I gotta adjust this strap. See how my live stream is doing. We're almost there.